accept the premise of your question. Well, I disagree with your comment. I reject the premises of that.
I reject the premise of your question, says Cowper Nationals MP Pat Conaghan at today's Coffs Harbour Chamber of Commerce Election 2022 Candidates Forum. I loathe hearing I reject the premise of your question. The effect is similar to Adam Savage on the TV series Mythbusters. I reject your reality and substitute my own. It's a deflection, it's demeaning of the questioner, suggesting the question is so far away from being meaningful it should never have been asked. It's a lazy way to avoid scrutiny. Taking the time to provide an explanation is much more open, and a discussion around why the question was inane, irrelevant or pointless demonstrates there's nothing to hide. The only way to reject the premise is to correct the false premise. Otherwise, it's saying, I don't like that question, I'll just answer a question I'd prefer to answer. So let's see what Pat Conaghan did today. Did he reject the premise, correct the false premise? So what was the question from the floor? A question something like this. In recent years, there's been a massive erosion of the university system, a big loss in jobs across all universities, largely through lack of support through COVID. Funding per student has reduced. The questioner goes on to describe the deterioration in the quality of teaching and student outcomes, and also commented that capital funding for a new health sciences building at our local Southern Cross campus was wonderful and welcome, but that the building needs staff. And she concluded by saying, universities need staff. What are you going to do to address this problem? Mr Conaghan's response, in terms of funding, I don't accept the premise of your question. In this budget, there's been record funding for universities. The questioner attempted to defend herself by interjecting, there's been a shuffle of the funding. Mr Conaghan continued, well, I disagree with your comment. I reject the premises of that. It is a priority for the federal coalition to ensure students are well trained and that there are plenty of positions out there for them. He then went on to describe a $1 billion boost for more rural doctors and nurses, a comment which I fail to see has any bearing on university job losses or funding cuts. Mr Conaghan concluded, to suggest there isn't a drive and motivation by the government to support universities is incorrect. So what are the facts, as far as I could find out? From January 2020 to December 2021, an estimated 10% of the university workforce across Australia in full-term equivalent roles lost their jobs. The 2022-23 federal budget reduced per student funding by 5.4% in real terms in the next year and 3.6% in the following 2 years. This is a $3 billion loss from 2017-18 to 2025-26. Only 1 in 3 university staff enjoy the security of permanent employment. And our Southern Cross University, with campuses in Cowper, lost 251 non-casual jobs. They had 1,158 full-time equivalent staff in 2019, and in 2020 they only had 907. And plus they lost another 133 casuals, down from 523 casuals in 2019 to 388 in 2020. I'll give the sources for those references at the end of the video. I plead with you, is it too much to ask our members of Parliament to adopt the same maxims of conversation that we expect outside Parliament? Just 4 things. Be truthful, be relevant, say no more and no less than is required, and be clear. Instead, we get a range of shutdowns. I don't respond to hypotheticals on water matters. That's a bubble question. That's gossip. That's not even a debate. And I reject the premise of the question. Let's hold our parliamentary representatives to account on Saturday by voting for those who don't shut us down when we genuinely want to know or understand something. Thank you.
Accept the premise of your question. Well, I disagree with your comment. I reject the premises of that.